Hello and welcome to Miniature Realms, and welcome to another unboxing video to do with Warlord Games' Black Powder Epic Battles American Civil War release. So this is another part of the Wave 2 releases, and this is the Zouave Regiments. Now, there will be a little bit of repetition for those of you who are watching all the unboxings for this wave and then looking at my blog, so there will be certain things I cover more than once, so apologies for that in some senses, but I'm also aware that people may find this video or one or other of the unboxing videos on their own and just be interested in those, so I will make the odd sort of repeat comment, so to speak. So the first of the repeats will be that when these were originally advertised, they were advertised as Warlord resin, and Warlord resin they are not. So as they started to appear around the world, America first, there seems to be a mix of ways that it's being communicated. Some people had a covering letter in the box, some people had a sticker on the front, but these ones I've got a sticker on the back, but essentially they are cast in metal. The standard sort of white metal you have for miniature wargaming, and I believe this is down to some kind of error in some kind of delay in the resin casting process, which meant that the boxes would be delayed if they didn't do them in metal instead. So the assumption there is that they will return. So in terms of relative value for the miniatures, for some people, them being in metal or resin will put a higher value of worth to them. This is a hefty box. This is a hefty box. I personally am happy they're in metal. I normally prefer plastic and resin miniatures, but the Warlord resin, based on the one example I have, which was the limited edition Robert E. Lee and Meade generals that came with the original starter set, they were very hard to clean up and remove mould lines, and once the mould lines were removed, you were left with that kind of bobbly, rubbery, bendy resin balls kind of things that stuck to it. It's just almost impossible to file away without creating more rough areas, and I could see these when I was painting, and I didn't like that very much, which is a shame because I'd prefer resin in so many other ways, but metal is always easy to clear up. The way these fit on the stands and the way they will be used, I think they're less chance of chipping and wearing than 28mm miniatures in metal, which is one of the reasons I don't like 28mm miniatures in metal. If I can help it, I prefer plastic. But anyway, that's that bit over and done with. So let's take a little look at the box. So front of the box, pretty standard, all the Warlord branding, Black Powder Epic Battles and Zouave Regiments, and there's a picture of what you get in the box essentially. So probably the same thing photoshopped 3 times over, but there are enough for 300 miniatures. They are on little strips of 5, so you'll need 4 strips to a base, and there's a sort of 3 sets of command, so you can make 3 full regiments of Zouaves. And then flip that over and you see the same thing illustrated again. Now, a couple of little things about that. So this is based on the standard size regiment that Warlord Games recommend in the supplement that they added to the Black Powder rules for this scale, because Black Powder is a game based on frontage, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of talking about frontage in the rules. They actually talk about it in terms of stands, so you have different sized regiments based on frontage normally. Warlord Games have converted that into stands for the epic scale range, and most of there seems to be a general consensus amongst the people playing the game that they are using using less stands than recommended. So Warlord recommend 5 for regular and a whopping 7 stands for a large regiment. This makes the frontage very, very large and makes it harder to play on smaller or standard size wargaming tables, which many of us will believe is the whole point of having a smaller scale in the first place. So it's up to you what you do, because there's no, it's the Black Powder are very much a sandbox set of rules, and you can do what you like, but most people are going smaller. I'm using 1 for tiny, 2 for small, 3 for regular and 4 for large, and that matches your morale stats and things as well. So that's what I'll be doing. So I'll be getting a few more regiments out of this box than may have intended, and I plan to play my games based on a historical order of battles and very sort of narrative based things. I'm not interested in points match, so things are kind of mix to match the scenario as it is anyway. But anyway, back to the job in hand. There's 300, I've already said, metal epic battles scale Zouave miniatures, 3 epic battle bases plastic sprues, so you get 3 sets of sprues, 1 epic battles Union flag and 1 epic battles Confederate flag. And this bit here, you might not be able to see it on the camera, you can just see is a sticker that's gone over the top of the packaging, which would have said resin before. Right, let's get the box open. Okay, so the contents of the box is as listed. We have 2 flag sheets. These are quite good quality. I've used a couple already, and they cut out well. They look really great on the miniatures. They're scaled obviously for this slightly unusual 13.5 millimeters Warlord's own scale, rather than sort of a straight 15 or 10 mil or 12 mil. So I think in many ways they're very, very good. I think if you buy some 15 mil, the flags might look a bit larger, but a lot of that's down to personal taste. The only thing I'll say, and I've said it on other videos as well, is that you don't get much variety with the Union at all. The Confederate, you get so much more on the flag sheet. So much more kind of generic based stuff that you can get away with using. Come with this, I'm not sure why there's such a disparity with it. But it'll be interesting to know if anyone at Warlord Games happens to be watching this and knows why that's happened. I don't know if it's a licensing thing. I'd love to find out. Next thing, bases. The standard sprue of bases for this scale from Warlord, so you get the bits you won't need. So your officers' bases and your artillery base, and you get 6 of these, so there'll always be 1 extra as well, so which is pretty good. So, and then it's split into bags. Now, what I did on a previous unboxing is I organised what was in the bags first, to save you watching me rustle around. I rabbit on enough as well as it is, you don't need me rustling around, so I'm just going to find 1 of each sculpt out of the bags and then come back to you. So here we are, the 6 different sculpts, so to speak. So this is where some people will say that, well, there's not 300 miniatures in a box because they're in strips. I don't know how else to classify it, to be honest with you. In terms of thinking about how long it'll take me to paint them, and if I was commissioning it, then I start to think of it as a strip or a stand as a miniature. So that helps me in that sense. I get what people are saying, but for me, they're also 300 miniatures. If you're comparing it against 10, 12 and 15 mil miniatures out there, they generally come individually, but you know you'd have to put them on a base in a very similar kind of way to achieve the same thing. So I think it's a bit of a moot point, really. So there's your 6 sculpts. They're basically labelled Z1 through to Z6. Z1 and 2 are the command stands split in half. So you have a officer and a flag bearer on one, and a drummer and a flag bearer on the other. I don't know historically whether they would have been placed like that or split like that, but it looks all right for the game as far as I'm concerned. But some of you more historically minded people, the people that get into the detail of that kind of stuff, may be able to say, well, no, your drummer will be placed here and your officer would never be standing next to the drummer, which maybe wouldn't be actually, but it's the kind of standard thing we see in placement of a lot of miniature games things anyway. And then you've got your 4 standard things. So what I'm going to do now is very, very briefly stick them on the end of my little painting handle, and to sort of give you all a little closer look at them. So here's Z1 with the officer and the banner bearer on. I quite like the men themselves, the miniatures themselves. Their faces are really, really well detailed. The uniforms, the Zouave uniforms are irregular anyway, so you'd have to have a massive number of different uniforms to match the variety that were found in different Zouave uniforms anyway. So I think that these fit that kind of mind's eye aesthetic that most people fall for. The weapons need straightening a little bit. I have taken off some of the largest bits of flash from the top of the guns, just so it's easier to show you. They do require cleanup, but as I said before, metal is generally easy to clean up. Marching pose there, just a bit of a strange pose, but I do like them. I'm looking forward to painting them. It gives them some real nice variety after painting lots and lots of the plastic ones so far, the standard troop type. So in terms of whatever their brief was, I imagine it was to sort of be a catch-all Zouave sculpt to go with the catch-all regular infantry sculpt, and I think they've done a really good job with it, and I'm very, very happy with that at this scale. A couple of things that I'm looking at and thinking it looks a little bit strange. The flag bearer looks it just looks a bit short, doesn't it, compared to the rifles, which need straightening a little bit, and their bayonets on, so maybe bayonets off. Could trim the bayonets off, I suppose, but it does look like a similar height. That's something I've noticed. Not quite sure why the officer has his arm in the face of the banner bearer, flag bearer. Seems a bit of an odd choice. Just elbowed him in the face. That seems to be a little bit of a strange. I'm guessing motion, it wouldn't, it looks like they're all moving, but it just seems a strange way of deciding to do it. They're obviously bunched up closer together than they would be because of doing them as a strip, but anyway, I think it's quite cool. So this is the other side of what would be the command strip. So you've got your drummer, your other banner bearer, and 3 more dudes. So again, I love the quality of the sculpt in terms of their faces and their clothing. I think it looks great. The guns need straightening. I'm not sure on those bayonets, but they must be very hard to do and keep them thick enough so they don't break off at this scale. There's no bayonets on the regular guys, so I might be tempted to see if I can trim them off, because I just think it makes them look a little bit odd at the moment. I'm presuming they are bayonets and they're not just weird bits of flash, but they definitely don't look quite right to me, so they may have to come off. But again, really happy with the main sculpt, the miniature. Then on to the normal guys, and it's more of the same in terms of the standard ones on the other command strips. This one's a little bit of a shinier, so it's harder to see, but I think they're really, really nice. So the only bit that's making me a little bit sort of stands out like a sore thumb is the bayonets on top, really. So here we are, there's another one. I do want to show you them all. That's the point of my unboxings here, is that you get to see each sculpt. If it was 100 sculpts or something like that, of course I wouldn't do it, but I'm able to sort of show you in a 15-minute unboxing rather than a 5-minute one. So if you can always skip ahead, but by the time you get to this point, because it is very much the same thing. But yeah, I think they're really good. As I say, I'm really impressed with the way they look here, the faces and the proportions of the body and things. They look good to me. Number 5. More of the same. They are quite squished together, and they do seem to be sort of 2 back and 3 a bit more forward. I do kind of like that. It does make them look like they're kind of marching on the battlefield, repositioning, I suppose, rather than marching on the parade ground, which is what we want when we're gaming generally. So very happy. Last one, more of the same, but it's nice to have that little bit of variety. Right now I couldn't tell you the difference between them, but after painting lots of them, it's amazing how you kind of get used to which bit's which. But I think they're pretty good overall. And then before you go, it's worth addressing the scale versus the original plastics. And there were a couple of images on a couple of the groups that suggested that the Zouaves were tiny, and the Iron Brigade, which is going to be on another unboxing, are huge. And when I opened them up myself, that didn't seem to be the case. So on video here, you can see a strip of the plastic versus a strip of the Zouaves. There may be a slight bulkiness in the overall frame of the miniature, so they're not quite as tall and thin, but they're definitely close enough for my likings. and the height's the same as well. They also said the guns look a bit weird with the bayonets on, but I'm going to probably trim those off, as I've already said. I'll just pop a little image up now. This isn't the highest resolution image, it's actually a screen grab from one of my other videos where I talked about this as well, on one of my vlogs, I believe vlog number 10. I talk a little bit about this, so all I'll say is that I don't think there is a major issue there, and not that was originally thought, where a couple of images showed them looking massive. I just don't think they were lined up quite right. But anyway, thank you for watching the unboxing. As I said, they're a little bit more detailed than some, so I may have bored a few of you to death. Thanks for watching. If you are new, if you've just found the channel because of this unboxing, please do take a look at the other American Civil War epic battle stuff that I've got on there. It's part of a big project for me at the moment. It's a relatively new channel, it's only a couple of months old, but it's I'm putting 2 or 3 videos, maybe even more at the moment, up a week. There will be lots of American Civil War stuff. There was some bolt action stuff going on there as well, and other games. Definitely anything's possible with the channel, so please do like, share and subscribe and all that jazz, and I will catch you soon.